All right, welcome to another episode of Art's Place. I am one of your hosts. So, what I'm going to do is okay, I am back. So, let's welcome Lloyd Mendenhall. Welcome, sir.
Hello, Art. How you doing today?
I am doing good. Just been busy like heck. No other guests today. It's just us two. Hopefully, we'll get someone next week.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good.
Mhm.
Uh, well, yeah, it's been kind of a quiet week for me, but I uh haven't done anything really exciting. I've gone back to doing, I kind of staying out of the live streams except for yours and Mel's,
Right.
and I'm just uh, I watch them, but I'm not really participating in them other than to, like, say hi and chat in the
Right.
chat. But I'm not getting in because I want to go back to vlogging
There you go.
4 days a week instead. I've dropped it to three, and if I drop it anymore, I'm pretty soon I'm not going to be vlogging. I'm going to be spending time on everybody else's channel, visiting with
Yeah,
them, and
that's
not
true.
doing anything on my own. So I've dropped out of a lot of that, and there's just so much. I do want to show you something though. Let me
Yeah, I
move my
saw
mic.
that. Is that? Oh, that is that from Ray said drone. Cool. That
Yeah, I
looks nice.
came in Thursday, I think, and I wasn't actually sure how. It's actually a little bit more green than it looks here, but I thought I was scared it was going to be see through because of because my green screen back here, but it's not. It's an olive drab, and
Cool.
uh, Kelly's. This is Kelly Shores from Ready Set Drone. For
Right.
anybody who might see this in the rebroadcast, not who knew who it is, but I'm a member of his flight crew, and
Awesome.
he, which means we subscribe to him and show. Give him some support and stuff.
Cool.
And because I mean he's out a lot on
Yes, he is.
setting up for the last year. He actually lost money on
Yeah.
spin up,
Spin up.
and I'm hoping this year it'll do much better.
Right.
But he sent this to me, and he
Oh,
sent one to Mel, and so I've already told him thanks. And I thought, well, and what I was going to say is his dad was in the Air Force, so he's an Air Force brat,
yeah, that's right.
and he's probably the nicest snowflake I've ever met. You know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he admitted on my show he was a snowflake.
Right.
And speaking of snowflakes, we will have the said snowflake on my show with luck
Great.
on Labor Day, September
Oh,
2nd.
awesome.
He's going to come on and talk about. I'm still going to have Mel. I'm tweaking some things now
Right.
to get the extra guest in, and I'm still hopeful I'll be able to do it on this
Uh-huh.
format instead of having to go over to Wire Crash.
Ah, okay. Let's do some housekeeping. Steve Carpenter is in the house. Welcome, Steve. And Carlos back from the sky. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for coming. Uh, yeah, so we just got not a whole lot happened this week other than those two radical congressmen mouthing off about Israel, and then then they find out, oh, what, we can't come into your country? Well, go figure.
Yeah, yeah. I was reading that Steve Carpenter is a great source of. I mean, he has a lot of political savviness too,
Mhm.
and he got me hooked up with this app, this DML, and I can't remember.
Right?
Steve can write up there the name of the guy, but this guy has a lot of news. You have to kind of sift through some of the advertising a little bit to get to the story, but
Right.
he's got a lot of good stories. And I was listening or I was watching that and reading it, and he was talking about them. And I'm sitting here thinking, what happened to people's memories? Uh,
Mm.
let's let's start out with let's just go start with the USS Cole, okay,
Right.
and then let's go on to the World Trade Center.
Mm-hmm.
Then let's go on to the beheadings of the reporters and
Mm-hmm.
of our military guys over there.
Right.
And let's go on to the attacks that Hezbollah has perpetrated, supported by Iran,
Right.
uh, perpetrated on Israel. And then you wonder why did the people in their precincts forget this stuff?
Well,
I mean,
it's because those districts are heavily Democrat, and they just uh, pick a Democrat over a Republican. It's almost automatic with them.
but that's like saying, well, my grandfather was a Nazi, so I'm going to vote for the Nazis too.
Yeah.
No. What
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my question is, and that's what I keep asking myself: what is wrong with people that they
Mm-hmm.
can't remember that kind of stuff? I mean, you know,
Well, you got to remember our education system is
exactly.
indoctrinating a lot of these people, and you know, this is now the face of the Democrat Party is anti-Semitism and racism, and
Mhm.
I hope that whoever is running for office uh, as a Republican should really play into that and say, hey, look, this is the face of the Democrat Party. They want to give free stuff away and they hate this country.
Yeah, yeah. And it's just I would just I keep watching these news stories come in, and you're right. Why would Israel let them in? I mean, Israel's got a tenant. Anybody who asks for a boycott, I mean, that's part of their governmental constitution. Is you try to boycott. I mean, this has been going on since what 1947,
Right,
and uh, I can't understand the lack. And the problem is some of these people. Let's see. Thank you, Dennis Mitchell Lynch,
right. Yeah, I
GMO.
saw that.
Yeah, the
Hmm.
oh, there's a paid version. I will have to sign up for the paid version because I'm getting tired of you know uh well, I won't talk about what some of the commercials are. I think they don't need to be on there, you know. But yeah.
And also, those two congressmen are, they're helping out the terrorists in the Middle East,
Yeah,
and they're
yeah.
raising money for those
I
people,
know, I know. And
and and they can't figure out. "Well, gee, I wonder why they won't let us in. You
yeah,
know?
and there was a set of initials BDS or something like that.
Oh, BSD,
B what is
boycott something and divest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Probably
that's what.
boycott socialism and divest or
No,
something.
I'll have to look up
Yeah.
the.
I've been seeing that name thrown around and I didn't know what it meant, and I'm going, "Okay, so is this a new group of people they're it's just these
Oh, it says boycott, divest, sanctions. BDS.
Oh, BDS, yeah, that's
Hmm.
against Israel. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
They obviously don't understand history,
Hmm.
and, it's just it's I find it sad that this country has come to this,
Right.
and,
Hmm.
that this would even be allowed. And the funny thing is, we can't say anything about it because then we're classified as a racist,
That's right. Hmm.
And I've got one thing to say for these people, right
Yeah,
there.
bite me.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
I did that. Yeah, because yeah, okay. Because I've this sign back here was made for me by Jim Wallace, as
Right.
well as that sign right, this sign right there. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. and this is my campaign sign,
Right.
and I stand for nothing. And I showed the pin to because I've got the hat pin too. I showed it to my doctor the other day,
Right.
and he says, when I say I stand for nothing, he says, that can be taken a couple of ways. And he says, you know, and of course, the other half of that is I won't stand for anything. And it's also, I won't stand for nothing. I mean, that's
Hmm.
basically, I stand for nothing. So you can
Right.
take it either way, either I don't
Hmm.
stand for anything or
Right.
I stand for nothing. In other words,
Hmm.
I won't stand for any of it. So take that as you see. But this is all fun and games, but in a lot of ways, this is the tenet of how I believe. I have no use for the stupidity, you
Right.
know.
Hmm.
So, anyways, I took over again. I'll let you continue.
Yeah. Yeah, I pointed out the other day that the Philippines is the same way. If you diss their country, they're not going to let you in. If you make fun of their culture, the people, even their celebrities or their leaders, they'll just you're persona non grata. You cannot enter the country. For example, if you make fun of Manny Pacquiao, who's like, you know, the big deal in the Philippines, is the boxer, and he's a senator
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
in the
yeah, yeah.
Philippines. And if you make fun of him, and you try to come in the Philippines and they know about it, they'll say, "Oh yeah, we heard about you. Get back on that plane or that
Yeah,
boat.
yeah,
You're out of here."
yeah. And people are taught. That is another thing that was in the news this week. Let's see. I'm still trying to think, Carlos, when the first terrorist attack in the Middle East, it happened at the King David Hotel, and
Yeah,
I am
yeah, that was when the Stern gang blew up the hotel and killed a lot of British troops there.
right.
And
Okay, that's what I
one
was
of
trying to.
them was Menachem Begin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was part of the Stern gang. Hmm.
Malcolm Bacon. Why did my mind go blank?
He
I'm trying to think who he was or
was
is.
former prime minister of
Sure.
Israel.
That's what I thought.
He's the guy that brokered the peace deal with Egypt.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah, he was. While you were over there in Iran, he was.
He was.
He
Oh,
and.
yeah, 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 yeah. I do. Yeah. Okay. I knew my mind just. Let's see.
Hmm.
Yeah. I don't.
Yeah, just type in Stern Gang,
Yeah.
and that'll give you a whole bunch of information about that. Uh, One of the channels I've been following is another new history channel. It's not really new. It's called The Great War, and it's all
Right.
about World War One.
Yeah.
And so I'm learning about the Middle East after World War One,
Oh yeah.
how the Ottoman Empire was dissolved, and Great Britain and France and Russia, they divided up the Middle East,
Yeah.
and these were on no real geographic boundaries. They just arbitrarily made up these borders
Right.
without considerations of the different tribes, ethnic groups, and religions
Same
over
thing
there.
happened in Eastern Europe
Yeah.
at the end of World
Mm,
War II. I mean, you had the Czechs and the Slavs were put
mm,
together in one country, Czechoslovakia,
yep.
and
And Yugoslavia was a
Yugoslavia.
mixture of a bunch of different groups.
Yeah, yeah,
And they didn't become a country until after World War One, and they were in turmoil up until World War One. Right after World War One, Tito took over, and he was the dictator, and he held that country together until after his death, and and that country went away. Now it's all, there's Bosnia, Herzegovina, and Slovenia, and Sofia, and all those countries. They're
Yes.
all
I was reading what Back from the Sky wrote. You're right, Carlos. There are a lot of Orthodox Jews that are anti-Israel, but there's a lot that are pro-Israel. There's always been a problem. The fight of Zionism has been going on since an anti-Zionism, which is the fight between the the different Jewish factions.
right.
And
Hmm.
some of them were anti-Zionist, which meant they didn't believe they should have a country. I'm not sure what they're. I don't understand why they didn't want their homeland back,
Hmm.
uh, but I was just reading what Carlos had said. Yeah, but
Right, right, right.
yeah, there are a lot of, but there's also, if you go look, I mean, there's a lot of Orthodox Jews that also live in Israel. So,
Hmm. Yep,
uh,
yep. Mm. And one
but
thing about the Philippines, they were the deciding vote that made Israel a state in the UN.
you know, I I think you mentioned that here a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about Israel,
Right.
and I had forgotten about it,
Hmm.
and there's it's it's strange how, I mean, there's a lot that how the Middle East has actually been a center in some ways of both wars.
Hmm.
The Middle East and Europe and those different, in Eastern Europe, Serbians and all of that stuff.
Hmm. And also, the Philippines were the only Asian country that would allow Jewish refugees to live there during
Oh
World
yeah,
War
during
II.
World
Yeah.
War II. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Well, I'm reading what Carlos is saying, and I
Right.
will agree to a point of that. But not all Jews are secular Jews that don't believe in God.
Mm.
There's some that are not Orthodox, but they still believe in God. And there's
Mm.
also some Orthodox that, I mean, that's a kind of a blanket statement, and I can't say that I agree with that.
Mhm.
But I don't, I mean, to, but as far as the Orthodox Jews don't believe in fighting, using as a means to capture the state again, well, uh, if you study the beginning of in 1947, uh, that state was just being abandoned by Palestine was being abandoned by the British,
Right.
and they were arming the Arab nations and the Arabs that were coming in. They're Palestinians, but they outlawed guns for uh, the Israelis,
Right.
and so they they were being massacred by the Arabs there because they wanted it there to themselves,
Right.
and you know so
Oh.
yeah, it's a little back and forth. I mean, but to say that the ones that wanted Israel were secular Jews,
Mhm.
it is considered a secular state, but they do not. When you say secular, I know what you're saying, but uh, they, yeah,
Mhm.
I'm going to leave that one because obviously, and I
Yeah.
understand Carlos has his own strong beliefs, and that's good. I mean,
Mhm.
uh,
Yeah.
but I will agree to disagree.
Right. And another
Yeah, in
uh
Brooklyn, in Brooklyn, so, yeah, I can see where the Orthodox Jews in certain parts of the country and the
mm,
world believe that, but not
mhm.
all Orthodox Jews and not all Israelis that live in Israel are secular.
Mhm. Mm.
You know.
And part of the reason why there's so much friction between the Arabs and the Western world is because during World War I, some of those tribes, uh, they sided with us, believing that they would be given autonomy and form their own country, and that wasn't true. And they also agreed to the Balfour Declaration in setting up a Jewish state. And
Yeah.
then after the war, the British and the French went back on their word, and they set up these new countries, and it's no wonder why they were ticked off.
Yeah.
Faiz,
Yeah.
King Faisal was the one that was trying to set up his own, replacing the Ottoman Empire, although Turkey would still become an independent country, but they wanted to form a whole new country on the Arabian Peninsula. And then the British and the French discovered oil there, and they just decided they didn't want to, you know,
You know,
didn't follow through with their agreement.
here's what I find, and I know there's been a few uh, Israeli or Jewish comedians that have made the joke about it. But here's the thing: why are they fighting to take over that piece of land? Of all of the Middle East, that is the most worthless piece of property anywhere in the Middle East. There's no oil. It's not that big. It's what
Y-
they can grow olives. Okay, that's
Where in
in
Israel?
Israel. Yeah, they don't have
Oh,
the
they've got they grow a lot of citrus fruits there,
well, right fruits. I mean,
and they
it's
do
a
have
farming.
oil.
They do.
Yep,
Okay, I never
yeah.
hear much about
You
Israeli
haven't heard
oil.
about the Zion Petroleum Company?
You
Yeah.
know, I guess yeah, I guess I haven't. That shows
Hmm.
how much I pay attention.
All right. Let's see. What else? Let's change.
Carlos, I've been married before too, so you can't say you're not. You might say you're only anti-Semite to her because she's your ex. I don't know. It's I'd never believe that. Anyways, Carlos, I know that. Uh, it's history has played so much, and a lot of the problems we're having today can go right at the feet of Jimmy Carter
Yes. Hmm.
because he didn't support the incoming government after the Shah resigned. He
Right.
didn't put his support behind that.
Hmm.
And that allowed the Ayatollah to move in and fill the vacuum, you know,
Right.
which was the Ayatollah's purpose, anyways. But the Shah saw that coming and he tried to set up or help set up uh, a government. And they had a government and it was a democratic government.
Hmm.
And, but Jimmy Carter didn't support it, and we've been dealing with this crap ever since.
Yep. That's that's true because Jimmy Carter, being a pretty staunch religious Christian, had a belief that well, the Ayatollah, he's a religious man.
Yeah,
We could trust him, and he was so naive about that. And you're right that
Carlos.
yeah, a lot of this stuff that we're dealing with, we've been dealing with for almost 40 years now because of Jimmy Carter,
Yeah, yeah,
and he's been, well, one of the worst presidents of the 20th century.
yeah. Indigo Rhino's in the house. Welcome.
All
Yeah,
right, welcome, Indigo.
uh, yeah. Jimmy Carter is uh, he was, I think, probably both one of the better ex presidents. I say was. He's lost that. To me, he's lost it now. But
Yeah.
uh, he was at one time because he was uh well, he's a bit of a pacifist,
Yeah.
being a strong Southern. I assume he was a Southern Baptist, a very strong Southern Baptist,
Yes.
or something, you know. And I can't remember now. It's been so long.
He was a graduate of Annapolis.
Yeah, Jimmy Carter did some really amazing things in the Navy.
Right.
He was in the nuclear submarine service, and he
That's
actually
right.
helped. They had a meltdown uh, starting in one of the first nuclear submarines, and as they were abandoning it, everybody else was trying to get out of there before it melted down, and Jimmy Carter stayed there and worked until he, you know, uh,
Was able to get the
was able to
reactor
get the
to.
reactor under control. Yeah,
Okay.
and
Cool.
yeah, people don't see that. They don't look at his military record. And
Mm.
fortunately, there's only two things they remember about him: is the Iran hostage crisis
Right.
and Billy Beer.
Mm-hmm.
That's all people remember about. And uh, uh, let's
The
see.
crappy economy.
Well, yeah, that those are the
Yeah.
other things, but the two main things is the Iran hostage crisis
Right.
and Billy Beer
Mm-hmm.
and Habitat for Humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
That's,
but that was after office.
mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it's he had a brilliant military career, and
Mm-hmm.
we had. I may have told this before, but we have a barber shop. I don't know, about 5 blocks from my house, and
Right.
this old barber, he was one of those guys. He scared you to death because he always used scissors, but he had like Parkinson's. But he'd been cutting hair for so long that his fingers went like that, just all the time. Even when he was talking to you and he wasn't doing anything, he had them scissors, and that hand was doing that. And you think you're kind of like dodging the scissors sometimes when he get to talking. 'Cause he also liked to talk with his hands. So,
Mm-hmm.
anyways, he had a picture. He actually had two pictures. He had a picture of himself and a young ensign standing in front of a submarine.
Right.
And then he had a picture of himself and an older gentleman uh, taken at a different time, obviously, when they were both much older.
Uh-huh.
And they were both autographed. The first one was autographed, your friend Jimmy, and the second one was autographed, your friend President Jimmy Carter.
Oh, wow.
And that was that, and the old guy, he actually died in that barber shop. He opened up the the store that morning, went in there, the shop, that the barber shop that morning, went in there, sat down, and when one of the other barbers came in to check on him, he was gone,
Gone.
sitting
Oh.
in his barber chair. You
Hmm.
know, he
You,
was like in his 90s.
wow.
Yeah, but
You could
he
say
was.
he was a cut above.
Yes, he was. He was, and
Mm.
the thing was is that uh, you know, you couldn't say anything bad about Jimmy Carter in front of him
Right. Right.
because
Yep.
they were good friends, and that Jimmy Carter would remember him. You know,
Mm-hmm.
some old barber that lived in a podunk little town like Muskogee, Oklahoma, and here, the president of the United States.
Right.
But
Mm-hmm. All right. So let's shift gears a little bit. Evidently, Antifa had another attack in Portland, Oregon. I'm going to see if I could find that. Antifa attack Portland. Okay, yeah, that this was yesterday where they had okay right wing groups, anti fascist protesters swarmed downtown Portland. 13 arrested as the police declare civil disturbance. So the Antifa and the far right groups, uh, I guess they just got
they
together and decided to create a brouhaha.
well, yeah, the far right group was going there to have a peaceful protest, and
Right?
Antifa did their thing, and words were exchanged. And from what I understand, and which I find is kind of uh, funny in the fact that Antifa is supposed to be from the they're the anti-fascist and they're supposed to be from the left, but
Right.
yet a bunch of them got busted on both sides carrying guns.
Oh boy.
Yeah, they got arrested with guns,
Mm.
and so there's some gun charges going against some of them. So they're
Let's
not
let's
just the
welcome
peace
Love
lovers.
My Drone
Yeah, he
into
just
the
came in.
house. All right, and Ed just subscribed to our channel. Great,
Oh,
cool,
excellent. I tweeted this out just before we went live, and I
awesome.
put it on
Thank
Facebook
you.
too. So,
So did
uh,
I.
okay,
I
good.
gotta get better at getting the word out.
I forget. I forget to even. Yeah, exactly. Love my drones. I agree. If these guys wanted to protest and but they hide behind masks, and
Hmm.
it makes you wonder who they are, what they are, and why. And again, uh, I'm old enough to remember. Of course, Art, you are too. Your dad, he was in World War II, right?
Right.
All right. So was mine. My uncles were, and we remember and how well we were. First off, we were taught about World War II,
Right.
so we you know understood what fascism was.
Hmm.
Uh, Mussolini, Adolf Hitler.
Hmm.
Those were fascists. These little punks out there wearing their mask and hiding behind their mask, they remind me of the what they called brown shirts that they had
Right.
over in. Well, they had
Germany.
them everywhere. They had them in Germany, but a lot of those brown shirts were collaborators with the in Holland with the Dutch
Right.
collaborators
Hmm.
who collaborated with the Germans. They ended up in a lot of them ended up getting executed before it was all over. For Dutch,
Right.
Holland being such a peaceful country,
Hmm.
after it was all said and done, they kind of lost some of their peacefulness. But
Yep.
those were the guys that were the brown shirts were the predecessors to the full fledged Gestapo and
Hmm.
Nazi leaders.
Hmm.
That's they'd go in there and that's what this Antifa is. They're just like the brown shirts. They're the collaborators with the enemy of the
That's
country.
right.
You know.
And down in Italy, they had the black shirts. That was
Yeah.
Mussolini's gang.
Right.
And another thing that I learned watching about World War I, there was Germany had a group of soldiers or peoples called the Hussars, and they wore black with the big black hats, kind of like what the Russians wore, and they had the skull on the hats, and I think
Right.
that's why the Gestapo had that skull on their hats. I think they
Right.
wanted to emulate, the hussars of World War I.
Right. Yes. Yes. I'm sitting there trying to type and I can't do two things at once. I swear, I'm losing it some days. Well, it's like I saw. I can't remember whose it was. Somebody was doing a flight this morning, and as the sunrise. Yeah, love my drone. Anyways, I'd woke up because Judy gouged me real hard in the ribs, and apparently I was snoring pretty loud. I woke her up. I got told about so I thought, well, I'll watch one of the flights.
There
Uh,
you go.
Actually, I think it was Philly Michael's flight that I
Oh,
watched this.
okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
and if you have not seen, go to Rodney Bell's channel
Hmm.
and watch Philly Michael do the Vegemite taste test.
Oh, I gotta see that.
It is hilarious.
Oh
It was
man.
sent. It started. Matt Norris sent it from Australia to Rodney
Right.
Bell, who has sent it to Ronald Lockwood, who sent it to
Right.
Philly, who will
Right.
now be sending it to Ray Calber. So,
Oh, okay. I wonder when it's going to get to me.
well, you need to contact Philly and say, "Hey, I'll do the taste test. I'm in between," and then send it on. Or
Mm-hmm.
maybe contact Rick. I don't need to do it because
Yeah, you've already done it.
I
Yeah.
started it to begin with.
Mhm. I don't know if
Yeah, he
it's
was. Yeah,
did you see my posting on Balut?
Balut.
Yeah,
Uh-uh.
you don't know what Balut is?
I have no clue what Balut is.
Oh, Balut is, duck eggs with an embryo in
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, I saw
them.
you write that something up about that the other night, and I thought, "That's if it's worse than Vegemite, I don't want it." Yeah,
Oh,
I know
yeah,
what you're talking about. Yeah, yeah,
I
that's
think I'd
ugh.
have to have a lot of, San Miguel's or
I'd have to
Red
be
Dragon.
starving. That'd have to be the last thing that I would take,
Mhm.
uh, if if I were fixing to die because of
Yeah,
starvation, I
yeah,
would probably be the and then I might just consider going ahead and dying rather than eating
yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
You know what? I think a lot of these weird foods are the natives' way to get back at the peoples that conquered them, that made them colonies.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like Scotland with their haggis. You know, when
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Romans came in, they say, "Here, try this. It's pig intestine."
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get back at them, mateys. And
Have you ever had menudo?
yes, I did. Yeah. I mean, well, I got the hominy and everything else, and I got that piece of tripe, and
Yeah, you're going,
it's kind of like chewing on a grocery bag.
yeah, it's
And it
and
doesn't get smaller.
no, it doesn't. It
I'm
just
like, a,
you can't bite through it because it's so
yeah,
like,
yeah, I
it
know.
it just springs back. It
Yeah,
seems to grow. Yeah.
yeah,
I was down in Mexico and we were staying this when I was in the service, but I was on leave and I was down there with my first wife and her father were did missionary work down there. He was a minister.
right,
And so he would go down there and spend the winters down there and
right,
waiting for his wife to retire. But anyways, we'd go down there and spend some time because it was about 600 miles from Tucson, and
mm,
so we'd always go down there to a place called Guaymas, and
oh,
which is it's a tourist town and it's a
right.
port town. It's right straight across the Gulf of California from Baja. So I mean,
Oh, okay.
on that right across from matter of fact, there's a ferry that you can get on at Guaymas and take it right over to the Baja Peninsula
Oh,
or
okay,
Southern California. You know,
okay.
and I got up, we stayed there at the minister's house. They had a room and you know, they had the church, okay, and then they had sort of a lean-to built off that church, which was
Yeah,
the living quarters. And
uh huh.
then next to the church was I don't know, some sort of building of some sort or another. But the lean-to roof never touched. It was not built onto that wall. There was a gap, and so when it rained, you'd see it'd run off that roof and it'd run down the kitchen walls or the bedroom
Oh
walls.
boy. Oh
But,
man.
you know, uh,
Well,
but
you know
anyways,
where the priests conduct their business
where's that?
in the rectory.
Oh my god, that's terrible. That's just terrible. That's bad. But what I was gonna say was talk about
Okay.
menudo is I woke up one morning and the butcher had just delivered a package and I was just getting up and stumbling out to get some coffee, and there's the pastor's wife fixing getting ready to start dinner for they were gonna cook all day, cook
Right.
it.
Mhm.
And she grabs this thing and she's shaking it out like a blanket.
Oh,
It was a cow's stomach
yeah,
and it was chopped up and put in the menudo.
yeah. Yeah, a friend of mine at work, she said, "Here, try this. It's menudo." And I go, "Okay." And I tried it, and I got to that part, and I go, I'm looking around for something to spit it out in, and she
Yeah.
hands me a paper towel, and she knew what was
Yeah.
going on. I'm I'm sorry. And she goes,
Yeah.
that's okay. It's an acquired taste, you
Oh, it's
know.
definitely an acquired taste.
It's either too hot or, but I like a lot of Mexican food.
Oh, I do too, but
And
that was one of those I just couldn't.
yeah. Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, and yes, Love My Drone said it was priceless. That Mike he's such a piece of work. Yeah, it was hilarious watching him.
Hmm.
And uh, yes, Carlos, there's got to be a better way than Vegemite to get your vitamins. Uh, Lots of actually, I should probably because that's one of the vitamins I'm lacking is vitamin B. So I should
uh,
probably have a little bit of Vegemite every morning for breakfast. I just haven't been able to bring myself to it yet. So,
uh-huh.
uh,
Well, you need
but
to do some home brew beer. And then what's ever left over, you can make your own Vegemite.
on Vegemite, yeah, 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 I don't think. See, I have this. Well, I never had a drinking problem in the service. My problem was stopping. So,
Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah.
so I after years and years of year, I can say I've been sober for 36 years,
All
35 years
right.
now. Yeah,
Great.
but I will say that when I'm with Judy, occasionally, these little sherry glasses.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I will take about a half a sherry glass of wine about
Right.
once a year, and that's
Okay.
it. And the only other time I have any wine is if I go up to the Catholic Church and take communion. You know,
Mm, okay.
so
My my dad was a home brewer.
oh, was he? Yeah,
Yeah. And the smell just drove me nuts. It's like, uh-oh, dad's making beer. Get the heck out of here.
yeah.
So how did we go from Antifa to Menudo to
I don't
beer
know.
and
I don't
Vegemite?
know. I don't know. I can't remember how we got started, but yeah,
Yeah.
Antifa. Let's go back to what they were saying.
Okay.
Their mask.
Antifa.
Yeah, uh, he was saying, to me, I forgot who wrote it up there now. Oh, it's Love My Drones. They seem more fascist than anyone. Think you should
Yeah.
believe exactly as they do, and that's it. You
Mm-hmm.
know, they're uh, they're fascist.
Mm-hmm.
Of the old variety. This is the problem. These young people, again, it's education, and we as parents and grandparents need to start standing up and saying we want real history taught in
Mm-hmm.
the schools so that these young people nowadays, they're in their these Antifa bunch, they're just in their 20s, and
20. Yeah.
and they weren't taught the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Uh you don't hear anything. You hear very little. The only time they mention the Cold War now is in some comedy movie where they have silly
Mm-hmm.
Russians or something. But you know they don't realize how many people died in the Cold War, and it wasn't because it wasn't global warming that we're talking about either,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
or climate change. It wasn't that kind of a Cold War, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, that's right. And a lot of the Cold War was just little tiny proxy wars all around the globe. Uh, uh, United States versus Russia, or United States versus China. Now we got stirrings happening in Hong Kong, where now the Chinese want to, you know, anybody who breaks the law in Hong Kong, they want to prosecute them in the mainland. They're saying, no, we're not going to do that. We already know what happens in the communist countries. We're not going to do that. So the whole city's been shut down. Even the airport's been shut down.
Yeah, that's why I do not understand. There's two things that I have yet to figure out.
Okay.
Why did the British give Hong Kong back to China?
Mm-hmm.
because Hong Kong belonged to they were part of the British Empire. They could have made them an autonomous nation,
Mm-hmm.
like Taiwan. You
Right.
know, they could have done that, but no, they said we're just going to give it back. And then the other one is Panama. After all the blood, sweat, and tears of our people
Mm-hmm.
working down there, we give it back. That of course was what Jimmy Carter, didn't he
Yeah.
do that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, thank you,
another.
Jimmy.
Yeah, thank you, Jimmy, you knothead, silly old fool. But you know, you're right. The Cold War was a bunch of proxy wars.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were always trying to keep. Uh,
Well, we didn't want to get into a full-fledged nuclear war, and
yeah, because
and
that's
we
where it would
knew
have gone.
that we're not going to fight a conventional war with the Russians.
Yeah,
And that's that with the atomic bomb when they've got it was like now there's a balance of power there, and
right, right.
so.
Yeah,
Mhm. And now we've got not only the Russians to worry about, but the Chinese. And now their navy is being built up and their military is being built up. Uh, their space program got a big boost from the Clintons because the Clintons gave them the guidance technology to make their rockets go into orbit, where before they couldn't get a rocket into orbit, a satellite into orbit, because they didn't have the technology for the guidance system.
yeah. You're right. Love my drones. He is very thankful, and I think he has not been the worst president of the United States in well, quite a while ago.
Yeah.
But
Well, Obama is,
yeah,
they're battling it out for the worst president, and
yeah, yeah,
Obama going around the world apologizing to everybody and bowing to our enemies, and you know,
yeah,
I was I really thought that if it came to uh, a nuclear, strike against our country, Obama he wouldn't do anything. He would just say, "Okay, we surrender," and he would have surrendered this country.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He would have. And
Hmm.
Carlos says he doesn't like the fact I can't say anything bad about Richard Nixon. I just can't.
Yeah, they're cousins.
Yeah, he's kinfolk, so you know how
Yeah.
it is. Got to
Hmm.
stick up for kinfolks, even the rotten ones. But yeah, okay, he did some things that might have, taken us off the gold standard. Yeah, that was probably a bad move.
Hmm.
But you got to remember, here's the thing about the gold standard. Uh, we were put on that because of the depression
Hmm.
by a Democrat and his New Deal, FDR, and that's when they recalled all the gold, and Americans
Right.
couldn't hold gold.
Hmm.
My mom, she used to tell the story about she went down to buy some bread, and she was given what she thought was a nickel. It turned out it was a $5 gold piece.
Oh
And
boy.
she was just going to leave, and the guy says, "You need your change back, young lady." This is in the days where you could send the kids down to the neighborhood, baker or
Right.
grocery store or something, and they'd come back, and you didn't have any of these problems you do now.
Hmm.
But yeah, she it turned out it was a $5 gold piece, not a that her mother had given her, not
Yeah.
a, and that's the problem. Uh,
They were about the same size as a
yeah,
nickel too.
we were actually, on a silver standard for years,
Right.
not the gold standard. And
Hmm.
all that, uh, all that Nixon did was free up the gold for everybody to be able to own it and use it and invest in it.
Right.
That's what he really did, and of course, it changed it turned the economy around.
Hmm.
Uh, coming out of the Vietnam War, and of course, we had a great economy. As long as we got a good war, I mean, a good war going on, we have a good economy. It's when these
Right.
political wars that was so much, and that's what was happening. Uh, that's yeah, it's a whole. I was, that's a whole different time period, and but yeah, uh, it was FDR that put us on the $32 an ounce gold standard,
Right.
and yeah, both gold and silver, yeah, and that's why we had silver certificates, which were discontinued in '59. I think was the last silver certificate that was issued, or '58.
Silver City. Yes.
Yeah, I think it was '58 or '59. I can't remember. I've got one.
64 was the last of the
Silver dollars,
silver coins.
silver coins, yeah, and then
Yeah,
they started going to
because the silver got to be more expensive than what the coins were worth.
yeah, yeah,
When we had silver dimes, quarters, half dollars, and silver dollars.
right. Carlos, you're right. We probably shouldn't have been in there, but uh, I think my problem is with people saying we shouldn't be there was the fact that I don't have a problem with the fact you don't like the war. What I had a problem with, and there's a lot of people that didn't.
Hmm.
What I didn't like was the way my brother veterans were treated when we came back. That's
Hmm.
where I had the problem.
Right.
You know,
Hmm.
uh, I don't have a bit of a problem with you not liking war. Shoot, I don't like war. I never did.
Yep.
But sometimes it's there again. That's going back to the proxy wars that you
Hmm.
were talking about with the Soviet Union. If we didn't go to Vietnam, we probably would have ended up in a nuclear war before it was all over.
Right.
It just
That's
would have
true.
been, uh,
And this also at the same time was when Marcos took over the Philippines, and part of it was he had to deal with communist uprisings in the Philippines,
right, right,
and he also had to deal with the Muslims or the Muslims in the southern Philippines. So he had two groups of people that he had to deal
right.
with, and that's why he took over the country, and he was a dictator for what almost 20 years
Yeah,
before he
yeah.
left office. I think in
You know,
'86. Mhm.
uh, I use this saying a lot, and it has to do with you know, uh, some of these leaders. He might have been an ass, but he was our ass.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Sometimes you have to take the good with the bad.
Hmm. Hmm. Uh, if you go back to the early 20th century when Harding was president, he was
Right?
very corrupt. But
Yeah,
when he died in office, we got Calvin Coolidge, who turned the economy around and cut taxes, and that's why we had the Roaring Twenties. The twenties
right.
were very good,
Very
but
good. Yeah,
this was at a time where uh, people didn't understand about commodities trading and how that affects the economy, and that you needed some. After the depression, there were some guidelines that investment brokers had to follow to prevent another crash like that.
right, right.
The
Yeah,
closest we got to that was back in '08 when the housing market blew up,
yeah,
and a lot of banks they were about to go broke.
yeah.
And
Well, and we had the same sort of thing with the savings and loan.
yeah. Hmm.
You know, there's been a few times we've come close to having that kind of a situation. But yeah,
Right.
the housing market in '08, and that was the thing that a lot of that stuff was so artificially inflated because people were buying houses that just could not afford a
That's
house.
right.
And that's because of,
Jimmy Carter.
yeah, well,
Hmm.
and
Bill
uh,
Clinton.
Bill Clinton, yeah,
Hmm.
uh, you know,
Democrats.
Fannie Mac and Freddie Mae, you know.
Yep.
And yes,
And
I know it's Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, but you know that whole, you know, when you, and there is a perfect example of socialism's failure,
mhm,
because those loans were guaranteed by the United States government. And then they
mhm.
said that nobody could be treated badly. It doesn't matter how bad your, it
Your
doesn't matter how bad your
credit rating
credit
was?
rating is, you get a house.
Mhm.
Goes back to those old campaign ideas, of, you know, a loaf of bread on every table and a car in every garage. Well, in this
Right.
case, it was everybody's going to get a house,
Mhm. Mhm.
and the government will back those loans.
Mhm. That's right. Mhm.
And
And
so,
this was the thing about George W. Bush. He warned everybody about the housing crisis. He was trying to
yeah,
get a handle on it, and the Democrats are all poo pooing. Oh no,
yeah,
there's no problem. And this is when the Democrats took back control of the House and the Senate, so
right.
Bush couldn't do anything. So the Democrats, they let this thing happen, and when the housing bubble burst, everybody got, not everybody, but a lot of people got hurt.
Yeah, for a long time. I mean,
Mhm,
the housing economy is just now starting to recover. We've
mhm.
started building new homes. We've started, used homes the sales are starting to, they're starting to come up. I think they went flat here a while back.
Yeah.
The housing market's gone flat again,
Mhm.
but it's going to.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Yeah,
goes through cycles, and
yeah,
it just, part of the reason why wanted to get my part 107 was so that I could do some uh real estate work,
yeah,
and the real estate market here in Colorado is flat right now, and so there's not a whole lot of work to be had in real estate market. So what I did today is I took some photos of the roof of our apartment here, so I could kind of put that in my portfolio, showing, hey, I could do inspections.
yeah. I was going to ask you, what did you use to edit that film? Because I noticed that there was a lot of washout in it, and I was wondering what you used to edit that.
Which one?
I think it's the last one you put up, the
Oh,
Arvada. Yeah,
from yesterday?
yeah, I think so. I noticed that. Did you use an ND filter on that?
Yes, I used an ND8 on it. I probably should have gone to a 16 because
16. Yeah,
early in the
yeah.
morning, and I did
Well, have you ever done any uh,
color
color
sat.
grading? Yeah, color
Yeah,
grading.
uh,
Did you do that?
that I gotta learn how to do. I tried
Okay.
to do that with
Does Filmora have that? Does it have automatic color grading or anything?
well, at the time I was using the older version, and I just
Right.
upgraded to Filmora
Yeah.
9, and I think Filmora 9 I'll be able to
Now, do you pay for that or is it free?
I had to pay for it, but it was
Okay.
on sale. I found a guy who was selling it for $2.22.
Yeah. Well, a couple of things that I would, and this is just from what little bit I've, because, well, sort of, I don't know why, but it's just this way. But look at my image and look at your image, and this is the difference between washout and color grading.
Right?
And part of this I have set up at my VMix set. I've done this to,
Uh,
change my tones and change my
oh,
white balance a
okay.
little bit.
Oh,
And,
okay.
so that's sort of what color grading is, and I just noticed that as a good everywhere except that there was times that it was just really really the white balance seemed off a little bit. So,
Right. Hmm.
hello, Chris Hope.
Hey, Chris, welcome to the show.
But Steve Carpenter, who wasn't he in here earlier? I think he was.
Yes, he
He,
was right
yeah,
here.
yeah,
Mhm.
he uses Power Director,
Right. Hmm.
and I think
Yep.
17. I've got 16. I think 17 is out now.
Right.
It is really, and I also use uh uh yeah, Adobe.
Adobe. Okay.
Yeah, Premiere Pro, but I don't use it that much. What I used for my vlogs is completely different. I use the Adobe.
Right.
It's an app for.
Oh, you mean Illustrator
No,
or
no, no, no.
Premiere?
It's not Premiere. Let me see if I can find it.
No.
But anyways, well, it doesn't matter. It comes with my package that I get.
Right.
So, but it's all part of the Creative Cloud. It's not Resolve. It's anyways, I can't remember what it is now. My mind went blank. But Power Director I used for to do the video that I did for to edit the video that I did for my campaign commercial,
Right.
you know, and it's got automatic. You can go in there and click, and it'll automatically color grade it for you, and just
Oh,
take that whitewash out. So,
right.
and you can buy that as a either a subscription or a download, or you
Right.
can even go to Best Buy and get it.
Ah,
And because that's really going to the color grading is what's going to enhance your videos. You know,
okay.
that's going
Uh,
to make it. Well, like I said, I've got my saturation set changed on this compared to where you probably have yours running straight out vmix, right? You haven't
right.
gone into the camera settings. I had to because I was blue. I don't
Yes.
know if you
I
remember that for a
remember
while.
that.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
blue. Yeah.
Hmm.
So that's and it had to do with the vmix background I was using and stuff. So I
Right.
went in and I started adjusting my saturation on my camera and stuff, and that's why
Okay.
I've now got sort of a looks like, well, I
Well,
look a
your
little.
olive drab is kind of brown now.
Yeah, it is, and that's uh but it's better to be brown. That part of that has to do with uh you thought I was wearing foundation. Now, Judy doesn't let me use her foundation. But yeah, but I mean those are some things. But anyways, I got off. I just you were talking
Yeah.
we were talking about that, and that just popped into my mind because
Right.
I saw that yesterday. And I thought you could have either used a filter or
Yeah.
you needed to color grade a little bit. And I
Well.
knew you just switched to a newer version of Filmora, so
Hmm.
uh, that will really make your videos pop, and that's going to be what those realtors are going to look at, and they're going to say, "That's what I'm looking for." You
Well,
know.
if you look at the photos that I posted today of the roof inspection, I
Uh-huh.
use an ND32, and I don't have to do anything.
Well, there you go. Yeah, you probably needed to have shot
Yeah.
that with a little, at least an ND16,
Yeah.
because ND8's just a little too light,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
especially
Well,
if you've got a lot of sunlight. You know.
yeah, it was early in the morning, and I thought, maybe I need to go lighter, and that I was just too light. But
Yeah.
if you notice, when I went around the back of the house, you can see how beige it was. Where you go around the front,
Right.
it's getting that sunlight from the
Sunlight coming in and washing out. Yeah. Yeah.
washed it out.
Yeah.
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 Hmm.
Yeah. So, but there again, that's one of those things you can fix in post production.
Right.
Just
Hmm.
by, and a lot of those color grades are just clicking on it, and it'll just pull it out. Or just
Yeah, I'll
change the
play around.
saturation a little bit. So play
Mhm.
around with it because that was a great shot, great video. It's just I noticed it was I just noticed that and I thought, but I thought, well, you talking about your video or the market and you filming. I thought, well, there's a tip that I had, and I've just recently learned some of this. I am not beginning to. I'm not going to stand here and sit here and say that. Sorry about that. I got a tattoo there, and it was itching, and I almost showed it. And that's not a tattoo I want to show on.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's from my younger days, and when I got the tattoo, I had no idea what it meant. Plus, it's two
It's got
tattoos in one. It's no, it's not nasty. It's just a lot of people would take offense to it. Okay, and also it has my ex-wife's name on it, so
oh, there
I
you go.
just
Yeah,
figured,
you don't wanna oh, Da Vinci is what,
yeah, Da Vinci, I can't get my head wrapped around. I just, for some reason, I just
mm,
it. I don't know why. And it's taken me, and I got to admit, uh, when Nay was doing all that stuff for me, and then I had to learn after he no longer supported some of us,
yeah,
uh, I had to learn how to do that on my own,
right,
change a few of those things. And so I've learned that, but I learned a lot from that, having to, because I have to use After Effects and Paint Shop
right,
uh, uh, every time that I change out my shout out for the week, you know.
right.
So that's how I have to use those to change that. My problem is remembering how did I do that last week?
Well,
Uh,
Carlos says, there's probably a YouTube on how to use, Da Vinci. Yeah, of course. And
yeah,
that's
yeah,
the thing I love about YouTube is if you wanna learn how to do something or do a DIY, that's the place,
yeah,
you
exactly, exactly.
know?
So, eh, Art, I gotta apologize again.
Yeah.
Green Bay Wacky put out a video here last week about, are you a good host and or a good guest?
Uh-huh.
And or you crappy? Well, I'm obviously a crappy guest because he says, "Are you the one that takes over the conversation and won't shut
Yep.
up?" Yep, I
Mhm.
resemble that remark.
Yeah. Well, I'm learning to be a better host. I think I'm getting a little better because I have my stuff all over the desk of topics to cover and things to say, but I gotta get better at booking guests. It was great having Tom Tancredo on last week, and uh, my my vision is to bring more people like Tom to the show and make this
Yeah,
better because I'm in 101 subs. We gotta do something. We gotta bump that up and get to where we get push the needle and get people interested in coming here to watch this channel.
yes, yes,
Mhm.
and I try to always mention this channel on my show on Monday nights to let everybody know that hey, I'm a co-host over there. Come on over and watch.
Grateful for it.
And
Mhm.
uh,
And Drone Life RC, welcome to the show. It's you got to come in a little early. We're about to wrap up.
yeah, and it helps when you have a guest and at Art's place, and and the chat helps drive the live. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Chat, and we did kind of cover some of the subjects in chat. We missed a
Oh,
couple of them.
that's another thing. What I like about StreamYard is I've got the chat, and I can watch it while I'm doing the show. Where the other way with vMix, I had to flip back and forth from YouTube to to the stream,
Yeah,
and I think that's why Dan got a little ticked off at me about my Arts Place show because Arts Place Artco show because I wouldn't uh, read the chats.
oh, Dan from Drone
Yeah,
Worship.
worship. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
I always, right now I've got my vMix opened up right in front of me, which is sort of below my camera, but right in front of me is where I have my pop out. I just drag it over there in front of me
Right.
because once I start vMix, I don't have to touch it,
Mhm.
which you're using vMix too,
Right.
you're as well. And that's just for the background. The rest of it is, I'm either and I'm bad about right now. I'm looking at you, and I should be looking at you up here,
Yeah,
and
that's what I'm trying to do too. I'm
and
watching
and
you, and it looks like I'm looking up, and I should be looking at you right
yeah,
there.
yeah. And I've changed some of that, and it works a little bit better now that I've got my live chat. It's just a conscious thought,
Mm,
and uh, but yeah, I think StreamYards is going to be a good tool for a lot of people. I'm working on a couple of things in the background
mhm.
that I'm still having. I thought I had it worked out yesterday, and then today it's like that's not working the way I thought it would. So I've got to try it again, and because I thought about going with Skype
Yeah,
instead of
StreamYard.
Zoom. But
Zoom.
no, I have Zoom. I have Zoom, and I can use it in uh,
vMix.
Mix. Yeah,
Okay.
and I'm just trying to, and I need to. I'm going to have to test it. I may be calling on you because I'm
Okay.
not going to do it tomorrow because I've got a show tomorrow and I got Mel's show this evening. That
Right.
is, if he has one. He's helping Ken Heron move his studio
Yeah,
today.
that's right.
Anyways,
Mhm.
so
All right. Well, we've done about an hour and 15 minutes, so let's wrap this up. And do you have any topics that you want to talk about real quick?
no, I think we covered it. I did want to talk about that thing out in Antifa or out in Oregon with Antifa,
Right.
and I want to talk about what we you mentioned the part of the crew or whatever they call themselves
Yeah.
up there, the knotheads in Washington. You
Right.
mentioned those people, and especially the two. Uh,
Yeah. Talib and Omar.
Yeah, the two Muslims that the one wanted to go to Israel. You mentioned that, and my thought was the people that voted for him. As I said, why why don't they remember this stuff in the early
Hmm.
part of the war?
Yeah. Hmm.
So, anyways, we've covered those two subjects, and that's all I had to.
All right. Okay. Well, hey, thanks for all you folks out there on the chat. Thanks for coming in, and all you folks who are just watching the show. Thank you for coming in, and we will see you next week. We will have some more hard hitting topics and some great guests. So, see you next week, and God bless you. Goodbye.